Hi, Cathy, can you tell us a little bit about where your ability to write poetry came from?
Again, my mother being an educator and a librarian, the exposure to books and reading, always helps you become a better writer. However, my mother was a lifelong reader and she introduced me to poetry. And I think the first poet I ever knew anything about was Paul Laurence Dunbar, because I was so intrigued with the fact that some of his poems were written in dialect and my mother could read it. And that just intrigued me, so that made me want to be able to read it, and I began to be able to read his work that he had done in dialect. And then it went on to Langston Hughes and James Baldwin and James Weldon Johnson and Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni. These were the influences that I had growing up and the things that I loved to read. So poetry became more important to me than just reading, the regular novels or short stories or even comic books. I just fell in love with poetry, and not just African American poets, although they are my favorites. I did read the great American works as well, so I'm just a poetry lover.
Okay, let us know a little bit about some of your writings and things that you had.
Well, my first book is Hallelujah Anyhow, Poems of a Real Life Journey, and this came about because I believe at a certain age, young people do vision boards. People my age, we do bucket lists. And I devised a bucket list of things that I wanted to do, before God called me home. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do was a book of poems, a book of poetry. I've been writing poetry for years, ever since I was a child, but I just write it and put it away, or write it and throw it away, or write it and leave it somewhere. I wasn't really collecting it, I was just writing it. And so it just, this book came about, and my urge to write again came about from a very strange situation. I was invited to a ladies' tea, and it was given by my hairstylist, Tamika Johnson, who's a fabulous lady, and she was giving a tea for her clients and friends, and I, wanted to go, so I bought a ticket, and I was determined to go, bought my hat and everything, I'm ready to go. And on that day, everything in the world got in my way. I just didn't think I was going to be able to get there. First of all, my son dropped my granddaughter off, and then nobody wanted to come pick her up. It was like, I'm going to a tea. So all these things kept getting in my way until to the point that when I left the house to go to the tea, I was an hour and a half late. I didn't even know if the tea was still going on, but it was something in me saying, you need to be there, you need to go, you need to go. So I get there an hour and a half late, only to find that I have not missed everything. But I didn't miss the part that I think God was sending me there to get, which was the experience of being in a room full of women who were embracing each other and embracing their talents and embracing their gifts, because many of the women there who were slated to be on the program were writers, had beautiful singing voices, shared their stories of how they had overcome various situations to be successful women, and they were using their gifts. And at that moment, at that tea, I decided, you know what, I'm not using my gift. And I haven't used this gift in a long, long time. And I went home that day deciding, you know what, I'm going to dust my gift off and I'm going to use it. And I wrote my first poem that is published in this book, and it's titled A Little Bit of Tea.
Wow, that's awesome. So, how do your family feel about your career?
They are ecstatic, especially my mother. My mother always knew I had this gift, and she would always say, well, what are you doing with your writing? I'm like, I'm not writing, I'm raising children, I'm working, I'm running behind a ball and a bat and a boy. I didn't have time for that. I was a parent, I was building a career, I was a wife, I was all of those things, and I didn't really have time to use that gift. But now that I have that time, they are ecstatic. My brother has always been my biggest cheerleader, and I love him to death for it. He encourages me now in a positive way, whereas when we were growing up, he was encouraging me to do all kind of stuff that got me in trouble. But now that we're adults, he is such a great encouragement to me, and he keeps me going when I'm not really feeling it, but he lets me know that I am worthy and you can do this, and I appreciate him so much for that.
And that's awesome. So you say it's easy to balance between life and your career?
It is now that my children are grown. I'm a widow, so I have a lot of time for myself. And when I became in this situation, when all of these things happened to me, my children left home, now I have an empty nest, I have time to focus on the things that I had put aside to be a wife and mom and career person.
Okay. What are some of the other projects that you're working on right now?
Actually, along with this book, there is a CD out with 8 of the poems from the book on it. The CD is entitled Hallelujah Anyhow as well. And it has been very, very well received. I love the way it is done. And let me tell you how that came about. I have this friend, Sarita Griffin Stanley. She's always been a great supporter of anything I've ever done. So she was coming by my office to get a book. She wanted to support my book sales. So she came and she bought a book, and we hugged and talked because we hadn't seen each other in a long time. And at this time, she was engaged to this awesome guy. And they got the book, and they were out spending the rest of their day shopping or whatever, and she was reading him poems in the car as they were moving about the city. And she looked at him and said, "You know what? Wouldn't it be wonderful if there was some music behind some of these poems?" Lo and behold, he's a music producer. That worked out great. So that's how the CD came about. My wonderful friends, the Stanleys, decided that it would not be robbery to assist me in putting a CD together. And initially we did it for the book signing. And then, it was so well received, we decided to put it on the digital outlets, and that you can go and download them from the digital outlets. So you don't have to see me, you don't have to run into me. You won't run into me in the parking lot talking about you want to buy my CD. So you can download it digitally and enjoy the gift that they gave me to share with you.
Wow. How was it working on a project like that, recording?
It was so much fun because it was something I had never done. Now, while I devised the bucket list, that was not on the bucket list. So I had no clue and no idea how this worked or anything, but they just guided me right through it because he's very experienced and she is, as wonderful as he is. And so they just guided me right through the project. So it was the best thing. And then when it was over, I was like, hey, I want to record some more. So that made me write some more so I'd have something to record. So it's been very, very fabulous. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, we thank you for your time and giving us the opportunity to interview you.
Well, thank you.
Much success in your upcoming projects, including this project that you have out right now. And everybody know you can go to iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and all the great digital outlets to download.
Exactly.
We thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Broke and sad again. He didn't realize that she was smart and had peeped his game from the very start. So she married him.